Ladies and gentlemen, club football is back. I am smiling, and I'm sure you're also smiling watching this video because we have been bored for the past 2 weeks. But finally, club football is back, unless you support Manchester United. So now, let's get straight into it. We now have this weekend. We have is a cup weekend in England. We have the FA Cup quarterfinals. The very first matchup is Manchester City versus Liverpool. Now, that is a classic FA Cup tie, quarterfinal tie. That is a match that either teams will try to focus on it and say, you know what, I have to win this match. This is a very win. If I am able to beat the other team, I have a very good chance of winning the FA Cup, which is a major trophy at the end of the day. So I will talk about that going on. Then the next fixture we have there is Chelsea versus Port Vale. On paper, Chelsea is a far better side than Port Vale, so we respect Chelsea to go through there. We'll talk about that in a few moments. And then in the later fixture of that same FA Cup quarterfinals, we have Arsenal traveling to Southampton to take on Southampton. That is a very tricky tie. You get it's a very very tricky tie. We'll talk about that. And then the last but not the least FA Cup quarterfinal tie, which is taking place on Sunday, is West Ham hosting Leeds United. We'll also talk about that. But let's first talk about the Manchester City versus Liverpool. What do you think? Who do you think is going to be pivotal to the success of Manchester City in that tie? Now, Pep Guardiola is coming off the Carabao Cup final victory against Arsenal. They won fair and square. I'm an Arsenal fan, yes. Did I want to lose the trophy? Of course, I want to win every game and every trophy available to the team. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the end of the world. So Guardiola has won the first trophy in English football this season. He has a chance to take Manchester City into the quarterfinals or the semi-finals rather, the victory against Liverpool. This match is at Etihad. Liverpool is going to come out guns blazing. We will expect a very strong lineup from both teams. I think Guardiola is going to stick with Trafford in goal. He's going to stick with Guehi and I think Stones in defense. I'm not sure if Ruben Diaz is back. Vardiol is not yet back. So he's still going to go with O'Reilly and Matheus Nunes as right back. His midfield is going to remain the same of Reinders, Bernardo Silva, and Rodri. Then his attack, I think his attack speaks for itself. Semenyo, Doku, Haaland. Meanwhile, for Liverpool, Siba, I'm going to be very honest, Liverpool have not been as convincing. Yes, I know they did not start the season, well, they started the season well, but along the line they faltered. They've had a lot of injuries this season. I know injuries is not an excuse, but it's the truth. They've had a lot of injuries to players that they were hoping to integrate, and then Florian Wirtz that they brought in for £116 million is not living up to expectations. At least that's what a lot of rival fans will tell you. I'm sure Liverpool fans are not overly concerned about his performances this season, but they would expect him maybe from next season when he has had the opportunity to have a proper preseason to pick up from where he left off in the German league. So I would expect Liverpool to come out with a strong lineup. If they can field in the defense of Van Dijk and Konate, play Frimpong or maybe Conor Bradley at right back, play Kerkez. They have Kerkez and Robertson available to them at left back. I don't think that would be a problem. The defense is not a problem. The problem, well, I wouldn't necessarily say this is a problem, but a major concern, I think it will even help Liverpool throughout between now and the end of the season, is the pending, departure of Mohamed Salah. Now, Salah has said he's going to leave the team at the end of the season, probably going to Saudi. I'm just saying out of speculation. I don't know where he's going to, please. Now, if he decides to leave the team and go to Saudi, good for him. But what now happens to Liverpool? Because Salah needs replacing, his goals have to be replaced. The production he did for that team last season has not been replaced. That is why they have this problem. So let's say Salah features in the quarterfinal tie against Man City. Do you expect the front line of Salah, Ekitike, and Gakpo and Florian Wirtz to be good enough to beat Manchester City at Etihad? Well, they could if they are on their best performance that day. Now, do we expect to see a very good or their best performance that day? I'm not so sure. The match that really summed up for me The match that really summed up Manchester City's, or rather Liverpool's poor form this season was the match at Anfield against Tottenham. How do you draw Tottenham that everybody's beating? Tottenham where they dash everybody points everywhere. You reach Liverpool turn now, they go dash them 1 point. You understand? So I'm expecting, on paper, it looks like a match that Manchester City will win. Now, it's not going to be an easy fixture, but we expect Manchester City to win the match. Then on to the third fixture in the quarterfinal. We now have Arsenal taking on Southampton at Southampton's away stadium. What's the name of their stadium? St. Mary's. Yes, at St. Mary's Stadium. That is a very tricky time. A lot of Arsenal fans, I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans online. See, Arsenal fans, you have a problem. I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans online talking about saying that rubbish of, I think Arsenal should throw away this match so that they should focus on the league. What do you mean by should? So why did we win the other matches up until this point? Tell me, why did we win all those matches up until this point? You play every game, you take one game at a time and see how far you're able to go. This is the FA Cup quarterfinal. If you are able to beat Southampton, you will now progress to the semi-finals. The FA Cup semi-final is one more step to the final, which is a major trophy. I will gladly take the Premier League and the FA Cup trophy this season. Gladly. Now we lost the Carabao Cup final. No problem. We have lost that one. Now this is the FA Cup. Put your best team. I'm expecting Arteta to put his best team forward against Southampton. I'm expecting the team to line up with Kepa in goal. He's the cup keeper. Now, he did a mistake against Man City in the final. No problem. But he still remains the cup keeper, and this is a cup game. So I expect Kepa to start. I'm not quite sure if Timber has recovered well. So I think he will still be Ben White at right back. I think Arteta will want to play Mosquera because he played during the Spanish national team's international matches. So I will expect Mosquera and maybe Gabriel to play. And then Calafiori will start at left back. And the midfield will always remain Zubimendi and Rice going forward until something happens, God forbid, knock on wood. And then the attacking midfield is where we have a little bit of problem. Is Martin Odegaard back fit to start against Southampton? I'm not so sure. Is Eze back fit to start against Southampton? I'm not so sure. Does Arteta decide, you know what, let me play Saka there and use Max Dorman at the right wing? Or does he say, you know what, let me stick to Havertz, the same formation I played against Manchester City in the final? I am hoping it's that one, although I wouldn't mind seeing Saka in number 10. But I wouldn't want him to start the match. Probably somewhere along the line from 70th minute, you can always take off Havertz, bring in Max Dorman, and then shift Saka to the number 10. Anyways, so I'm expecting Havertz to play at the number 10, and then we'll have Victor Gyökeres leading the line. And on both wings, I would expect to see maybe Trossard. It's a game we need to control. So we'll start with Trossard and Bukayo Saka as the both wingers. Now, on paper, it sounds like a match Arsenal should be winning. But football is not played on paper. Let us be very real. Football is not played on paper. Because the football is not played on paper, I would expect a tough fixture for the Gunners. In fact, the players themselves will tell you this is going to be a tough fixture. It's not an easy fixture. This is a team that is in the championship. This is a team that has played in the Premier League not too long ago. So I would expect them to be a tough matchup for Arsenal. But in the end of the day, I expect the quality in the team to pull through and win the match. It might be maybe a 1 or 2 goal score line difference. Maybe like a 1-0 or 1-2 or 0-2 kind of score. I'm expecting probably like the way Mansfield's game was. I'm expecting the fixture to go that way. And then last but not the least fixture, in the FA Cup quarterfinals, we have West Ham taking on Leeds. Now, that is a classic Premier League FA Cup tie. Both of them are supposedly mid-table teams. Or in this particular point in time, they are both basically like relegation battling teams, at least for West Ham's sake. Now, I think West Ham is going to beat Leeds. They are going to use this particular fixture as a stepping stone to push themselves, try to push themselves out of the relegation. So I would expect West Ham to line up in a 4-3-3 formation that they've always been using this season. And I would think West Ham would progress. Now, I'm not saying for a fact that West Ham is going to win, but I would expect them to do well against Leeds United. But I wouldn't be surprised if Leeds are able to pull through and qualify to the FA Cup semi-final. So with that being said, we are done with the FA Cup time.